While we wait for official word on the Blackhawks' next head coach, we have some details on who that person might bring along and who they might keep. Find out next on CHGO Blackhawks. Happy Wednesday. Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks podcast. I'm Jay Zawoski. That's Mario Tirabassi. Joey's running the show today. Always exciting when Joey's here with us. Thanks for being with us as well. We love you. We thank you. Do us a favor and hit that like button for us on the YouTube page. And if you're checking us out on the podcast, we'd like you to follow or subscribe and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And like we say all the time, feel free to roast us in that 5-star review as long as it's 5 stars. You can air all your grievances about our show and how much we suck as long as it's 5 stars. That's all we need.
I think that's fair.
We'd appreciate that very much. All right. Look, we've been talking about this for almost a week.
Basically,
that Jeff Blashill is very likely going to be named the next coach of the Chicago Blackhawks. Today, there is more movement on that front. I don't expect anything official today. Obviously, when something becomes official, we'll go on with a emergency podcast.
Or it might time out perfectly for tomorrow's show.
That would be great.
That would be
nice. That would be wonderful. Yeah. But we have a little bit of fresh news on the Jeff Blashill front. First, it was David Pagnotta from the fourth period, kind of saying the same thing. Could happen today, could happen tomorrow. All signs point to Jeff Blashill. Then our buddy Tab Bamford had his own report, his own story, saying that Blashill, when hired, will bring 2 assistants with him, and that Anders Sorensen is expected to be retained as an assistant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was information that, not specifically Anders Sorensen being retained as an assistant, but we knew from what Kyle Davidson said that Anders Sorensen would stay with the organization. Could it have been kept on as an assistant? Could it have been to go back to Rockford? Wasn't exactly sure. But it appears that he'll keep on as an assistant, and there will also be some changes. I know Scott Powers and Mark Lazarus were writing about other organizational changes. Paul Goodman is leaving as the longtime trainer, so there's some switching up going on in the organization outside of just the head coach. But you know what? It could definitely be needed and could definitely bring some benefit to kind of shifting around the culture and the mindset and the mentality of the organization to hopefully move things forward. That's what we're all here for, is to move things forward.
That's the hope. And Bill asked in the comments, what is with the Hawks constantly having coaches retained? Look, I like Sorensen. I think he's a good developer. My ideal role for him would be Rockford head coach. But if he is indeed on the bench, okay, I guess they think continuity would be a good thing. He's familiar with all of these young prospects. It would remain to be seen what role he would be in. I would assume, based on what he was brought to the NHL to do aside from developing, is coach power play, coach the offense, those sort of things. But again, we don't really know. And teams, not just the Blackhawks, but all teams are very mysterious about what specific roles the assistants hold. I know someone who works for the Tampa Bay Lightning and asked, so what exactly were Blashill's duties? And they told me, let me find out. I'm not particularly sure. That's kind of the vibe around the league, and you have to kind of read between the lines on who does what. So maybe Anders Sorensen is there to be the bridge to connect these young players to Jeff Blashill and his staff. If they made a clean start, I'd be totally fine with that. But I don't know. The Hawks love Anders Sorensen. We know that. We know they love Sorensen. Davidson said he'll have a role with the team regardless. So if it has to be an assistant on the bench, fine. I just think he's better served head coaching in Rockford.
Yeah, I would have thought that more likely it would have been to retake over the head coaching role in Rockford. But I think you look at what Sorensen did in his time as head coach, specifically with the young players, the young group, and whittling it down more or less, the guys that came up with him through Rockford over the last season, 2 seasons. You look at how Frank Nazar played. You look at how Ethan Del Mastro developed. You look at Artem Levshinov, Kevin Korchinski in the time that he played in the NHL this year. Like, these guys took steps forward. And I think keeping him around for those players, and obviously other guys as well throughout the group, but like for a lot of those players that have come up through Rockford that are going to, you would imagine, play more significant minutes going into next season, depending on how the roster shakes out, but it looks like those guys will be there. Having Anders around would be a good thing, because it's, like you said, continuity. It kind of continues that development path, and it allows for that voice for those guys, and maybe for others. If, I think Nick Foligno enjoyed Anders and the change that came from Luke Richardson to Anders kind of taking over. Who knows how much that actually impacts what would happen with Jeff Blashill coming in, now being the head coach, once that becomes official. But I think keeping Anders on is fine. I think now what it comes down to is which assistants are sticking around. Yeah. And I think it's probably, you could almost write it in stone, Jimmy Waite will stay around, because he's been around for a long time with the organization.
I hope so.
The goaltending development of Arvid Soderblom from last year to this past from 2 years ago to last year was a really big improvement. I think, you saw how he worked with guys like Corey Crawford and how he, helped develop some of the other, backups over the years that have kind of gone on and had extended careers. And now you have Spencer Knight in the fold, Drew Comezzo in the fold as well. Like, I think keeping him around is probably best for business for the goaltenders.
I mean, that one certainly doesn't upset me in the least, because if Jimmy Waite was to become a free agent coach, like if the Hawks just said, well, we're going to make a change, we're going to let Jeff Blashill bring in his own goalie coach, fine. Jimmy Waite would be hired tomorrow. He is considered one of the premier goalie coaches in the league. So chances are, if Jeff Blashill were to look around the landscape of goalie coaches he knows, Jimmy Waite's going to be the best of those guys.
Right.
So there's no reason there. The only thing that gives me a little bit of pause with Sorensen, if he is indeed staying on the NHL staff, I don't know. It's kind of weird to have the guy you replaced sitting there. I guess it wasn't a big deal with Sorensen and King, but...
Well, they had worked together before in Rockford, too.
Yeah, so they already had a relationship. I don't know. I mean, Derek King didn't seem to mind when Luke was head coach.
Mm-hmm.
And he was, he knows it's an interim basis. Sorensen seems like the kind of guy to me that is just like, hey, man, whatever. Like, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to coach whatever role you want me. And not to say he's not ambitious,
right,
and wants more of his career, but I don't think that he's going to be the kind of guy that's going to be a problem or mope and pout that he didn't get the head job.
No, I don't get that sense from him at all. He's seen, and I think if you probably asked him away from a microphone or anything how he would self-evaluate, he probably would say, that he knows the circumstances he came into, knows the results, that what the job entails and everything, and the learning curve that would come from being a development coach, being an AHL assistant to an AHL head coach, and then being thrown into an NHL head coaching job when you never had NHL coaching experience, even as an assistant prior to that. So I think, for him being able to stick around, be in the NHL as an assistant, I think that's fine. I think that's a fine fit for him. Maybe the marginal difference between an AHL head coach and an NHL assistant, and in terms of importance to the organization as a whole, is small. But I think there was a positive enough response from the group to him that it's fine to keep him around. Jimmy Waite, I think, should stay around. Kevin Dean, I think, should also stay around. I think he's a guy that he's coaching with Team USA right now as an assistant coach at the World Championships. I think the defensive group and how they played this season, the young guys, how they kind of took steps throughout the year, I think is really important. And again, continuity with that, I think, is going to be part of it. So you go down the list. Now you kind of look at Derek King and Derek Plant.
The Derricks.
And
get out of here, Derek.
The Derek, yeah. And if it's Blashill bringing in 2 assistants, it kind of feels like that might be the spot. Those might be the spots that get taken up. But again, we'll see how it all officially plays out. But in my view, Dean and Waite would be the guys for sure that I would keep out of the assistants.
Yeah, I mean, I like Kevin Dean. I think he's done a good job. At some point, though, like, you can't make him retain everybody. No, I think what we're going to see, though, is if I'm handicapping it, I think Derek Plant is for sure gone. I think that's a 0% chance he's staying. I would say Derek King next, most likely, then Kevin Dean, then Sorensen would be my order of guys likely gone. Mm-hmm. I don't think Jimmy Waite's going anywhere, nor should he. No, but if it was those 3, if it was Plant, King, and Dean, I wouldn't bat an eye about it. You got to let your coach hire his guys.
Yeah, I think that's fair as well, and that's what we have been talking about through this whole process of, where the Blackhawks go in their coaching search and who they get and who could be a part of it. Like allowing a coach to pick their staff and people that they're comfortable with and people that they know mix with what they're going to try and implement and can execute that. You definitely want to give the person that you put in that position that opportunity. Who knows exactly what the interview process was? I think very few people do. Otherwise, we would have more information about it. But I'm sure that through the process, Kyle Davidson has said, whoever he's talking to is like, hey, we like what Anders Sorensen did, has done, can do with the organization. So I would imagine any person that's interviewing for the head coaching job has been, presented with, we want Anders from the organization side. We want Anders Sorensen to, potentially be part of staff. How would you feel about that?
Yeah.
And if not being able to pick all of your assistants as a deal breaker, then that's one thing. And I'm sure if that was a deal breaker for someone the Blackhawks really wanted to hire, they would maybe bend a little bit and be like, okay, well, then maybe we'll just put him back in the AHL.
Look, if I found out that they had a coaching hire they wanted and he didn't want to bring in his own people and they balked at that, that would be outrageous. I would be furious if that was the case. Like, there's no coach in this organization, Jimmy Waite included, that let's say if David Carl was like, I'm bringing in all my own guys top to bottom, and they said no, I'd have a huge problem with that. I don't think that happened, for the record, but that I get like stumping for your guys and saying, hey, we really like this guy. This guy's got a good relationship with our goalies, knows what he's doing. We'd like you to consider them. That's about as much as I would like the Hawks to push on that sort of thing in terms of retaining assistants. We'd like you to hear us out and consider them. Okay, fair.
Sure, yeah.
Great. It's just like the same thing we talk about with like Ryan Donato reaching free agency. Like, okay, we're gonna let you, well, they don't have a choice, but hey, when you're out there in free agency, do us a favor and get back to us with your best offer, and let's just see what we can do.
Sure,
right? Like that sort of agreement. We would like you to consider keeping Sorensen and maybe Kevin Dean and especially Jimmy Waite. Is that okay? Yeah, sure. I'll give it consideration. We'll keep 2 of the 3 or 1 of the 3, whatever it might be. That's very common. I don't think it was a deal breaker, but it better effing not have been.
I would hope not. Yeah.
If David Carl talks like, well, I was all ready to go and had all my Hawks gear bought, but then they said I had to keep Jimmy Waite, so I said no. I would do an upset.
Yeah,
that's what I would do.
Yeah. No, and I would imagine that Kyle Davidson is smart enough and flexible enough to not be that steadfast on something like that. I'm just saying, as it seems like it seems like an entire assistant coaching staff overhaul isn't coming. My thought is probably it was discussed about who is and is not going to be hanging around from the Richardson-Sorensen timeframe.
Right. Okay, got to hit the break zone for the first time. Got a lot of people watching, but not a lot of people liking. So do us a favor, hit that like button for us. We'd appreciate that big time. While you're there, you might as well just hover over an inch and hit that subscribe button. We'd appreciate that very much as well. Back in 2 minutes right here on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast.
And whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Did you know that new customers can now get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose? I like those odds.
That's pretty good.
Win or lose?
Yeah.
I'll take that. Sign up now. Use the code CHGO365 and deposit $10. When you place a bet for $5, you can get $150 in bonus bets, whether your bet wins or loses. And with the Bet365 early payout offer, you're a winner if your team gains a 3-goal lead with an instant payout on straight bets and parlay selections marked as winners. So, had you picked the Florida Panthers last night,
Good pick.
you would have been an instant winner when they got out to their 3-goal lead. Download the app, and again, use the code CHGO365 when you sign up to get those bonus bets. $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. Again, the code CHGO365. Those bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never an ordinary at Bet365. You must be 21 or older, and if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER. This offer is in-app only.
And believe it or not, summer is right around the corner. You do not want to be the stinky guy.
Nope.
Or gal.
Nope.
In your office, on the train. Dude, when I went to Disney last January, we got on there's a bus that takes you to different parks. It was 8 a.m. The guy in front of me smelled like complete butt. I almost handed him my Mando, but I didn't want to sacrifice
What was
it.
his
I was going to ask hockey locker room or a long day of Disney bus ride back. Smell.
So he
what are the
smelled like
smells?
you should smell after a long day at Disney on the way to Disney. That's a bad start to your day.
He probably had a long day of Disney the day before.
Yes, and just didn't shower.
Partied all night with Mickey Mouse and then went right back to the park.
Things get crazy when Mickey's around. Get yourself some Mando to protect him from being the stinky guy and the Disney tram. You don't want to do that. It's whole body deodorant. You can use it anywhere. Pits, balls, thigh folds, belly buttons, butt cracks, and feet. And friends, this guy needed it everywhere. It was created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal body odor was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. Check out all their great scents, including the Clover Woods. That's my favorite. Mando is clinically proven to control odor better than a shower with soap alone. 12 hours after you shower. The average man's grundle odor level was a 5 out of 10. With Mando, the average odor level is 0 out of 10. That is one fresh grundle.
Yeah.
And thanks to the heroes, that word gets tossed around a lot. No. The grundle sniffers at Mando are heroes.
Not all heroes wear capes.
That's right.
Some of them sniff grundles.
Yes, that's awful for them. But that's why they're heroes. Mando starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like the mini body wash and deodorant wipes. Those deodorant wipes are clutch. I keep them in my glove box with free shipping. And as a special offer for listeners, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code CHGO at shopmando.com. That's SHOPMANDO.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to grundle with Mando. All right, we got a super chat from our buddy Brandon, who says King being an assistant with Anders would be nice. I assume Brandon is talking about in Rockford.
Maybe.
I think so, because we just saw King being an assistant with Anders, and it was slightly better than with Luke.
Yeah, and we saw Anders be an assistant with King in Rockford. They've been together for quite some time with this organization.
Yeah. So, sure. If it's in Rockford, I'm down.
Yeah.
I'm down. DJ Schnell, $2 says, absolutely love the channel. Joining Die Hard now. Thanks. That's awesome.
Nice.
And
Way
DJ,
to go, DJ.
Love
while
that.
you're there, once you do it, sign up to join us for our Cookout Classic.
Yeah.
June 6th at the Village Links of Glen Ellen. We are still available to buy. If you got a friend you want to bring with, you can pay to golf with me and Mario.
You can purchase us.
Yeah, buy us. We are cheap. So go to allchgo.com/event. You will see our event calendar there. Go to the CHGO Cookout Classic and buy your tickets there, because as a diehard now, DJ, you get to save 20% on that and all things CHGO.
Merch,
so thank you for becoming
events.
a diehard.
Yeah.
And if you're not one yet, other people, go to allchgo.com and check it out.
Yeah. And being a diehard, you also get access to the diehard Discord channel.
Yeah.
You also get access to all of our diehard only written content. You wrote something recently about Jeff Blashill becoming the head coach, as all signs continue to point to. I've been doing some writing about the upcoming draft, looking at, options for the Blackhawks at number 3, options for them at number 25 and beyond. So you can get access to all that and much more across the board at CHGO. So becoming a diehard, arguably the best deal in all of Chicago sports.
When I heard that Jeff Blashill might be bringing along an assistant with him, all I could think of was you and Jeff Halpern.
Yeah. One can dream, right? It's funny. It's just like I've literally put like no eggs in any coach's basket, and only for the bit have I been like, you know what? I'm choosing Jeff Halpern, and my gosh, does it seem like I got close?
Yeah, maybe
a Tampa assistant, under John Cooper, a Stanley Cup winner, all that stuff. But looks like it'll be Blashill, not Halpern. And I mean, it remains to be seen, but doesn't sound like that's who's coming with them. But who knows? Someone in our diehard Discord as a mailbag question, I believe, and I just saw it. The Giggities says Halpern or Bylsma. Dan Bylsma was brought up as potential, maybe a potential assistant or an option out there. I mean, he's a guy that we've heard have interviews, got a short leash with Seattle. That's why they have a head coaching opening. But he's a long time AHL coaching experience, long time assistant experience, head coaching experience, won a cup with the Penguins many years ago. Most recently with the Seattle organization, was their AHL head coach for a few years, got the Coachella Valley.
You did what I did.
Coachella Valley Firebirds. It's such a cool name.
It really is.
Got them to the Calder Cup final 2 years in a row before getting promoted up to the NHL job with the Kraken. Hey, like he feels very much like Jeff Blashill, except he's got the ring on his finger.
Yeah.
And I know that was many years ago, but that would definitely be someone who, if you said coming along with Jeff Blashill is Dan Bylsma, I'd be like, all right, well, that's 2 NHL head coaches on the same bench. I'd be a little bit more excited for that to be the potential. So we'll see.
Yeah, I would be. That would be great. Someone of that caliber, Dan Bylsma joining as an assistant. So if you're talking about Blashill, Bylsma, Waite, and Dean, and Sorensen as your coaching staff, it's pretty good. It seems like maybe
I don't hate it.
Yeah. I mean, that's
they had 4 assistants this year too.
Yeah,
with Plant, King.
That's true.
Dean, Waite. Yeah. So and Derek Plant had to stay up in the press box for 2/3 of every home game. It's
interesting. We're getting our usual suspects of Chris says this is horrible, and we had another comment from Blaze Inferno saying this is a bad hire. We'll sink the rebuild. The only thing worse that has happened recently than this in Chicago sports is losing Flag to a coin toss.
Cooper Flag.
I just don't know for the people that feel that way. There's no one who has covered Jeff Blashill who has said, oh, this is going to be a horrible hire for the Hawks. I will admit, we're all sort of meeting it with all right. It's not crazy exciting. I just don't know what is currently out there and actually available, Blaze Infernos or the other guy, that necessarily would be in your mind a home run hire that would make you feel better than you feel about Jeff Blashill. Again, I'm not telling you need to go blow off fireworks and bang pots and pans when this becomes official. We're not doing that either. I just think calling it a disaster is a little bit dramatic.
Yeah. Again, just because it doesn't move the needle doesn't mean it's a bad idea, a bad hire. That's how I've been absorbing this information. I don't get super excited about it, but looking at it, objectively, yeah, it's a guy that has a long resume, has prior head coaching experience, and looking at it objectively, like the NHL head coaching experience he had was in an organization that put him into a position of, you're the head coach and we're going down. We are about to go all the way downhill. So, you're working from behind as a coach at that point. So there's still a lot of unknown about it. So if and when this becomes the official hire,
I swear to God, if it doesn't, I am fleeing the country.
If Jeff Blashill has not made the head coach, this entire week might go down as my least favorite week of this job ever.
And then we're going to have to deal with this Davidsman guy couldn't even get this over the finish line.
Slip through our fingers.
Yeah.
To be very fair, people in the chat are saying that on Wikipedia, Jeff Blashill has been named the Chicago Blackhawks coach on Wikipedia. So problem solved. Problem solved. Lock it in.
Well, I didn't know that Tab Bamford had that sort of pull around here. That's amazing. Way to go, Tab, despite your college football rootings. Good job.
No, I think... Where was I going with this? Oh, just looking at it, trying to look at it objectively. And as Shayna Goldman said on yesterday's show, like the alternatives, there's not that much out there that you would even consider quote unquote better at this point.
I think the close comparison would be Jay Woodcroft. And yes, it's undeniable that Jeff Blashill did not have success in Detroit. But what's more concerning that Jeff Blashill can't win with a hot garbage Red Wings roster, or that Jay Woodcroft can't win with the Oilers. To me, that's a little bit more of a red flag. And I know there was more than, there was a McDavid injury and things in there, but a cup contender like the Oilers should be able to stay above water for a while, even without Connor McDavid. And last year, when Woodcroft was fired midseason, the Oilers were off to an awful start. They had to get red hot to even get into playoff position. It took them a while to even get back in the conversation. And then, of course, they get to the cup final. But, they had to dig out of a hole that they fell into with Jay Woodcroft. I didn't say because of. But to me, that's a little bit more of a red flag than, Jeff Blashill didn't win with Andreas Athanasiou and Anthony Mantha on his top line.
Right.
That's a little more concerning. So, sure, I get why some would have preferences for Woodcroft, and that's fine. That argument I can live with, but I think both of them come with their concerns.
Yeah, for sure.
And Chris, 2 points.
There's not a slam dunk candidate out there. Even David Carl, as much as we're all over that,
it's a huge unknown.
That would have been. He's the hot coach. He's had a lot of success, a lot of smoke around him, a lot of interest in him, but also completely unproven at the professional level. So that would have been the hill to get over. So all of this comes down to what the results end up being on the ice. If they make this hire and they make these coaching changes and the Hawks are in the best position possible to draft Gavin McKenna next year, I'd say, not looking great. I think this team should be set up to have lesser odds at getting the top overall pick next year, hopefully, than they have the last 2 years, 3 years.
I hope you better be right.
I hope.
By the way, someone pointed out that Jeff Blashill in his first year in Detroit had Pavel Datsyuk and Henrik Zetterberg and Dylan Larkin. Yeah. Dylan Larkin was 19.
Had he even debuted it?
Yes.
By the time did they crossed over, Zetterberg, Datsyuk, and Larkin?
Datsuk was 37. Zetterberg was 35.
And Datsuk basically left the next year, didn't he?
I believe that was Datsuk's last year. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, he had those play. That'd be like
just like the Hawks had Taylor Hall.
That's
and
like
Nick
saying
Foligno.
Luke Richardson had Taze and Kane for a few months.
Did he?
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
For a few months.
For a few months, he did. Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's just not. You got to look.
It's not Jeff Blashill was, the head coach of just beyond
Sergei Fedorov, Brandon Shanahan, Brett Hull, Nick Lidstrom, and just having to still suck.
Right.
All right. Break zone one last time, then we'll be back. Hit that like button for us. We're well over 100. We love that. So let's push the envelope and get to 150. We would love that. Please.
If you are in the market for a new vehicle, you're in luck because new vehicles are in store at Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. And this is your chance to score a great deal during the Employee Pricing Plus sales event. Head to Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram on Route 12 today to choose from their huge inventory of new Chryslers, Dodges, Jeeps, and Rams vehicles. And right now, at least the new 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee 4XE for only $245 a month for 24 months. Plus, shop over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. With a friendly team of brand experts, the team at Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram is here to help you during each step of your car shopping journey. Plus, since they prioritize affordability, you know you won't overpay for the vehicle you need. And with Ray's price promise, you can shop confidently with no add-ons, no hidden fees ever. The price you see and hear is the price that you pay. So go check out our partner today to shop one of the Chicago area's largest inventories. Find the right vehicle for you and then drive home happy. The team at Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram is the only one that we recommend. Don't miss out on the Employee Pricing Plus sales event for huge savings on the Jeep Grand Cherokee 4XE. For more information, visit Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram today on Route 12 in Fox Lake or online at raycdjr.com. They have been serving the community since 1963.
Ram. And you may have noticed, with all the breathless analysis, that the NFL schedule is out. 24/7 NFL schedule programming. We're in hour 8. New York Giants, week 5. Who's going to win?
Have you win-lost the entire Bears schedule
16-1.
Ah, perfect.
They're going to rest the starters last week and lose.
That makes sense.
They're also going to try to manipulate the playoff schedule for themselves to make it more difficult to take away any arguments they're the best team
Mold
in the NFL.
it in their image.
All right. Well, with the NFL schedule out, you're probably targeting some Bears games you want to go to this year. My cousin Mike from Seattle is coming in, trying to get tickets to that Giants game. I said, hey, buddy, just go to Game Time. Game Time makes scoring NFL tickets faster and easier. With exclusive discounts, you'll find great seats as low as $100. The Game Time guarantee means you can trust you'll get 100% authentic NFL tickets on time and at the best price. Plus, fees are always included. We love Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Mike, terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it, Joseph?
Game time. Who?
Did I assume you're a Joseph? Are you a Joseph?
I am a Joseph. I'm a Joseph Scott, man of the 80s.
Well, nice. That is very
Scott.
Joey Scott.
Don't see that anymore.
You got to wear like neon bike shorts in here one day just to really, really
I have the visor sunglasses that I'm happy to bring in.
All right, that's fine. We'll call you Joey Scott if that's the case. I got a couple more super chats we want to get to here before we're actually going to move on from Jeff Blashill.
No.
Yeah, I know, which means in about 5 minutes, we'll get a huge report that it's happening.
Yeah.
All right, super chats. What do we got here? Ralph J says people crying about who to draft and the coach are silly. We have no control over this. Sit back and relax. That is very much the way of the fans.
That's the right attitude, Ralph J. But sometimes
doesn't help us.
Doing the right thing is the hard thing.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And our buddy Windy City Hockey, with his mind where it always is, does the Centennial jersey possibly get released at the Blashill press conference when the Hawks give him a jersey with his name on it for the photo op?
Probably not.
No one is more focused on Hawks jerseys than Windy City Hockey.
Oh, yeah.
It is amazing.
He's got to add to his collection.
Yes. He came out with a cool design. We did it on our last mailbag show.
Yeah, the mock-up.
Made his own kind of mock-up and kind of similar to the Winter Classic from last year, but the more modern crest with the gold outline looked pretty cool.
Yeah.
I know he threw it up in the Discord for diehards, and I think he tweeted it out too. So
we put it on the show, I think.
We did. Yes, we did. I just don't know where it is now, so I can't do anything with it. So yeah, I think that they're going to roll out all the Centennial things one by one. I don't think they're going to want to say, here's our Centennial jersey, and Jeff Blashill holds it up for a second and then puts it down next to him. It's going to be a whole big, glossy, produced, zoom in on the stitching, zoom in on the explanation as to why everything's there. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a massive reveal. So I don't think they're going to, I don't want to say waste that, but I don't think you'll see it when Jeff Blashill is named head coach.
My thought process still is that we will get that pomp and circumstance reveal on the day of the draft, and then the number 3 pick, it will be wearing it. That's my guess.
I like that. We should look into when Boston revealed theirs.
I think Boston did it right before the season.
Okay,
because their pick at last year's draft was the gigantic Dean Letourneau, and he was wearing a regular Boston jersey, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
He stood next to Pete Blackburn, and it was comedic and super funny. But yeah, I remember him wearing just a normal Boston jersey. Or no, was their Centennial wasn't last year?
No, it's 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Either way,
I think it was before the season. It wasn't at the draft.
All right, let's. I know a couple weeks ago, a proposed trade, not a rumor, because it was just some dude on the internet, mentioned a Blackhawks trade with Bowen Byram. If you listen to today's 32 Thoughts podcast with Elliot Friedman and Cal Buskowskis and Dom Tremati, did I say that right?
I believe so.
Don Tremati is their producer. I want to make sure everybody gets credit. They actually talked about how Bowen Byram in Buffalo has a year left on his deal, and the reason that he left Colorado was because he wanted he's an RFA right now.
He's due a new deal.
Yes.
And
summer.
Won't be a unrestricted free agent for, I believe, 2 more years.
Yes. So the reason he left Colorado was he wants more playing opportunity on defense. He wants a higher role. And with Cale Makar there and Devin Taves and all the great defensive players they have, he wasn't going to get that in Colorado. So he goes to Buffalo, who has Rasmus Dahlin and Owen Power, and he's blocked there too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this is going to happen. I don't think it makes sense, but it's worth conversating about in the middle of May. Would Bowen Byram coming to Chicago, 23 years old, you would think probably about to enter his prime, would he come into Chicago and be in their top 3 next year?
I think Bowen Byram looking for a bigger role and a bigger opportunity. I don't know if he just doesn't run into the same issue in Chicago that he's gotten in Buffalo, where you look at Chicago and it's Korchinski, Vlasic, Levshunov, now Renzel is in the mix. You have Delmash. Like, you have at least 4, maybe 5 other U23 defensemen that you're very high on as an organization. Now you bring in Byram, throw him right into the NHL. You're not necessarily looking at a development path all that much. You're more or less looking at him as like, this guy is an NHL defenseman. How do you get him to a ceiling? I still just don't know if he just doesn't run into the same issue here. And who knows how the number 3 pick goes. Maybe somehow Matthew Schaefer is thrown into the mix. I just think, just strictly on looking for the opportunity for a bigger role, I think if he comes to Chicago, he's thrown into the blender of where are all these young defensemen going to play, and could he come out and be a top 4 guy? Sure. I just think it's less of a guarantee knowing where the organization is at right now.
I think Bowen Byram is better than Crevier and Kaiser and probably Del Mastro and Allen. Like, yeah, I think he's better than those guys. So I think you would have the potential of adding a guy who makes your team better and is still young, still fits the timeline. I do have concerns this would be his third NHL team.
Yeah.
And I know it's somewhat apples to oranges. I guess I'd say, but I know it's apples to oranges. It took Gustav Forsling 3 teams to figure things out, too. Chicago to Carolina. Now in Florida, he's like playing Norris level. He'll never get the Norris because he's not a big enough name and he's on a team full of stars. But Norris level defense. To me, if you're looking at Levshinov, Rinzel, Vlasic, Byram, and then Korchinski, Del Mastro, or Korchinski, Kaiser, however you want to shape out the top 6, it makes the team better. I do think you could look at him and say that it is an opportunity for you here. You get some maybe more power play time than you've been getting, that sort of thing. It also buys you some time with some guys too. So you've got Byram, the team's getting better. Maybe you give Korchinski an extra year. Maybe you give Levshinov the full year in Rockford or until the season, towards the end of the season, whatever. I don't know. The more I talk about it, the less I hate it. I think it's very unlikely.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know what he's going to demand as a free agent. I feel like with Byram, we're in a big name, but not a ton of production conversation. The predictor on capwages.com is predicting 5 by 7.17 or 1 by 5.2. So it'd be that bridge deal to get him to UFA.
It's like a show me,
right,
more or less thing.
But I'm not paying $7 million for Bowen Byram based on what I know about him right now.
I mean, you'd have to be convinced he's going to be healthy, and
healthy's key too.
And he played all 82 last year, which is great.
But 18 the year before,
right? Yeah,
55 the year before that.
Yeah, so I think you'd have to bank on that, and you'd have to be certain that he would be coming in and instantly getting into the top 4, and he could
he's on the top 4 for sure right now.
Yeah, and he could be, especially being more of a left side guy. Korchinski, Levshinov, those are right side guys. You have Vlasic on the left, and that's your top left guy at this point. So yeah, would Byram be right behind him? Probably. But I wonder what it would take to get him. I know it'd be RFA, trading for his rights. It would be. So I don't know. It's.
Would you give the Toronto pick for him? 25.
I guess. Yeah. I guess. But I mean, I still feel like Kyle Davidson has crafted this young defensive group, and it's never a bad thing to continue to have good young defensemen. I just wonder if taking that, it was that pick, is taking that pick to get like the maybe of the prime of Bowen Byram and what it could be, is worth that over something else that he could package it for. Could it be a more impactful forward player? Could it be, to use the pick to bolster the forwards group? Sure. Yeah. Who knows how it would be. So,
I mean, maybe it is something bigger though with Buffalo, because if like the Peterka thing is interesting. If they don't feel like they've got if Peterka's not going to go back there, he's also an RFA. So maybe you just make a big package for the two of those guys and you solve 2 problems real quick. Peterka's 23 also. If you got Peterka and Byram this offseason and the number 3 pick, and maybe it's not Mitch Marner, but maybe it's Nikolai Ehlers, Brock Besser, Sam Bennett, someone in that second tier of free agents, that is a great offseason. And look, I think that let's leave Peterka out of it for now, because that that makes it 100% worth doing. But if it's Byram, we can't fall in the trap of, like, yes, we like a lot of these young guys the Hawks have. We really like Nolan Allen, really like Del Mastro, really like Wyatt Kaiser. We've seen good things from all of them, very promising things from all of them. But if I was to place a bet on who's going to have a better career, one of those three or Bowen Byram, I think I'm taking Bowen Byram. And we can't get into the place where we're so in love with our prospects and we have no control. I think it's the same thing with Kyle Davidson. Can't fall in love with his prospects either and has to realize, hey, not all these guys are going to pan out. I talk about this all the time with Wyatt Kaiser is I really like what he does. I just don't know what he is exceptional at, which is fine. Maybe he's just a good all-around defenseman and he's your 6. I don't know. I feel like Byram comes with more of a pedigree and makes the team certainly better. I think he makes the team significantly better immediately, especially if he's healthy, and he's 23. I just, and look at the, got a cup in Colorado, came in, contributed to that cup run.
Right.
Chances are Bowen Byram, if healthy, is going to develop into a pretty good defenseman. And can you say confidently with the 25th overall pick, you're going to get someone who pans out to be Bowen Byram? Probably not.
Right.
So I don't know. It's interesting.
See. It's just, it's funny to me that he's, the report is that he's talking about looking for more opportunity when he was second on the team in ice time, defenseman, only behind Dahlin. But I don't know. Maybe I don't know the depths of the inner workings of the Sabres. Maybe he wasn't getting power play time or anything like that. But 22 minutes, 42 seconds per game. Like I said, second on the team.
He had no power play goals and 2 power play assists last year.
Yeah, so it must not have been a lot.
So I don't think he had a ton of power play time.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm all for Kyle Davidson being aggressive to improve the team. So if that's a route that he wants to go, I'm open to it. I just, if you're throwing another guy into that mix, where does it put? We'll see.
Yeah, all things equal, like a lot of people are saying in the chat, like if you're going to use that 25th pick and it's just for one asset, use it to acquire a forward.
Yeah, I'd rather it be a forward.
100% agree. Yeah. But if you throw Peterka into that conversation, I'm willing to, like, would you do Korchinski, 25 and a second for Byram and Peterka? I would do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So,
if it's something like that, sure.
All right. We should also talk about Frank Nazar a little bit, who is absolutely owning people at the Worlds.
Yeah.
He has been outstanding. And I know that the World Championships are not, front and center for most hockey fans, or kind of a blow-off off-season thing. Most people are very deep into the playoffs at this point, and the World Championships don't get a ton of attention. But there are some top-end players playing in that tournament, and Frank Nazar is holding his own with all of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 11 points through 7 games at the group stage for Team USA, and leads the team in points. I think he's in the top 5 in points at the tournament right now. Like, it's been really impressive seeing him at the tournament, not even playing in a top 6 role for Team USA. He's been on that third line center and wing position. I think he had a game or two. Maybe he was second line on the wing. Might have been just one game, but it has been really impressive to see what he's been able to do, and the way that he is scoring. He's got 6 goals. Again, leads Team USA. Has been by getting to the front of the net, getting to the middle of the ice, getting to those high danger areas and those tough areas, and that's been impressive to see it. We've talked about any Blackhawks forwards, but especially the young guys, having to have that instinct of, if I'm going to score at the highest levels, I have to have the ability and have the mindset of getting to the middle of the ice and getting to the net front, because that's where the highest percentage of goals are going to be scored. So for Nazar to be, putting that into practice with Team USA, I think that's really encouraging to see. And this tournament, as we said a couple of times, is like not the most deep when it comes to like top of the elite talent, but in the last couple of days, William Nylander's joined the group for Team Sweden. You got Sidney Crosby playing for Team Canada. You have David Pastrnak playing for Czechia. In the last game USA played, he's part of that group. Like some of the top players are there. It's just not like you see where everything stops for the Olympics.
Yeah.
So it's not to just you don't just completely write it off and say it's just some throwaway international tournament. Like it's still, there is something to be said for a performance like he's having at the age he's at the stage of the stage in his career that he's at. Like it is really impressive, and I think it just kind of like, as much as he finished the regular season really positively with the Hawks, like this performance also kind of gives him an extra ramp up going into the offseason.
So Nazar has 11 points in 7 games, as you mentioned. He is tied with Elias Lindholm and Sidney Crosby. In points, he's behind Travis Konechny, Nathan McKinnon. They have 12 and 13, respectively. Roman Cervenka for Czechia has 13 points, and David Pastrnak has 14 points in 7 games for Czechia as well. So those are the names with Nazar: Crosby, McKinnon, Pastrnak, Lindholm. That's good company.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good players. I'm looking at like Lucas Raymond's in this tournament, Bo Horvat's in this, Logan Cooley, all of which are doing well. But this is not just like a bum fest with Frank, starring Frank Nazar. Some of the game's best players are playing in this tournament, and Nazar is right up there with all of them. And look, like based on what we've seen from him and his time in Chicago, maybe it's surprising that his production is that high, but man, he looks every bit the star player that we hope he's going to be. And I know we just cautioned against overrating our own prospects, but I mean, whatever you want to use to measure Frank Nazar, that dude looks like the real deal. There's people in our chat say that he's the best Blackhawk, and I think you could argue that while Connor Bedard has the highest ceiling and is probably the best player, Nazar has been the most consistent and was the most consistent forward last year.
Yeah, I think he down the stretch had the most consistent game-to-game performances, probably the last 2 months of the season, or at least from the deadline to the end of the year, was one of the most consistent night in, night out. You could definitely bank on him having an impactful game, or at least doing the things that you want to see young players do to thrive in the NHL, and he was doing it. So I think you look at going into next season, who are going to be some of the players that can drive this team. Bedard is still at the top of that list, but Frank Nazar is a very close, I'd say second. Like, I mean, you look at the forwards group that they have. I'd put him above Tavo. I'd put him above a guy like Tyler Bertuzzi. I'd put he's definitely going to drive what his line does should he stay at center. He's going to be that kind of guy.
And you look at his stats, Frank Nazar, so far in the NHL. He has played 56 NHL games, so not even a full season, 27 points in those games. And if you remember, there was a massive part of this season where he was just not putting points up at all. Like, had a really slow start, and then all of a sudden kind of exploded onto the scene and really became, like I said, the most consistent Hawks forward. So he was excellent. And I would say he's as advertised, but I think he's a little better sooner than I expected. I'm still not sure exactly where he caps out at. Like, how good can Frank Nazar ultimately be? How much better can he get? But he is way better, way quicker than I expected.
Yeah, and I mean, don't forget, like, he missed almost his entire freshman season at Michigan after getting drafted by the Hawks. So, like, he's missed out on that key development time post-draft year. So his sophomore season was, really the first time we got to see him at full capacity, and he played tremendously well for Michigan. Made his debut at the end of that year for the Hawks and scored in his first game. And then went to Rockford last year, lit things up. Over a point per game player, gets called up to the Hawks and takes some time, but started to figure it out at the NHL level. And I think we talk a lot about the importance for Bedard to have a running mate.
Yeah.
Drafting Michael Misa, drafting Porter Martone, signing Mitch Marner, whoever it might be. I don't think it's too crazy to say when we get a few seasons down the road, we might look at this and say, well, Frank Nazar is, right there with him. And I know that maybe that is wishful thinking to the ceiling that Frank Nazar could have. But right now, what he was projected out to be going into the draft, when the Hawks made the trade to get the 7th overall pick in that 2022 draft, we all sat here and we were like, Frank Nazar is that guy.
Yeah.
And they went with Korchinski and we were like, no. And then they got the 13th pick and it was like, Nazar's still on the board. And then they got him.
That changed the feeling of that whole draft.
There was a reason that there was a lot of excitement for him. And, I think at every turn he's lived up to that expectation. And I think there's still a ton for him to do and steps to take. And I think one of the best attributes he has, aside from the hockey skills, is between the ears. He seems like one of the most confident young guys that is in this organization. And it's not a, entitled cocky thing. It's more of a self-assurance that what he can do in this league is going to be effective, and he's going to go do it. And he's got the mentality of, it's probably going to be hard, especially for someone of his size. Like, he's not the biggest guy, but he's going to do it, and he's going to work hard. He's going to be engaged defensively, could be part of the power kill down the road, as a lot of successful NHL teams have nowadays. You see in the playoffs, like, he's a guy that fits that mold and seems like one of those guys that has the capacity to, own this city and this fan base when it's all said and done.
Nazar, by the way, had 1 point in his first 10 games, which means he had 25 in his last 43, which would put him on pace for 48 points next year if he's on the same pace. If you take the 25 over 43, that translates to like 48 points over 82. So that's
told there would be no
pretty
math.
Good. Close to 50 points as a rookie, a 50-point pace.
I'm sure once we know exactly what this roster will look like going into next season, we will do our point projections, but
they're always terrible.
Over a half point per game pace for Nazar doesn't seem crazy even now.
Okay. We'll save it. I like that. I like the confidence. Speaking of that, you talked about Frank Nazar's confidence, and it reminded me of this thing. I saw Elliot Friedman put this out on May 18th, so this was during the Leafs and Panthers series. He did a pregame interview with Wendell Clark, and Wendell Clark pulled out an old card of his with notes that the old Leafs head coach Pat Burns would tell them during the playoffs. So it's like 4 points. It's 1, hard work, 2, patience, 3 is conviction, you're better, and 4 is team first. That number 3 one of just knowing that you're better than your opponent, knowing that you can do it, knowing you can compete, you see that from Frank Nazar.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's some of the stuff that we're hoping to see when people read the body language of Connor Bedard, where he looks frustrated, looks beaten, looks upset. You don't really see that from Nazar. Nazar's just up next shift. Part of that is maturity, too.
Sure, yeah.
Nazar's older than Bedard. He's gone through the college experience, further along in life. But I really like that note from Pat Burns. Conviction, you're better. That's a mindset that hockey players have to have in big moments and big games and in their careers. So before we go, today is the 15th anniversary of Dustin Byram beating the San Jose Sharks in overtime to win Game 3 of the 2010 Western Conference Final. Mario, we tweeted out the video this morning from the CHGO Blackhawks account, and it immediately took me into Hinsdale Hospital where my wife was in labor through that entire game. And as soon as that game was over, my wife's labor really kicked in. So early the next morning, May 22nd, my daughter was born. So that goal, that anniversary today is always a big one for me.
Nice.
Because we watched it on a hospital TV that was like this big, was barely coming in. And I'm very proud of my wife for holding off into the hard part. Well, for her, I shouldn't have said that. It was all hard, but the hardest part of labor until the game was over. She's a big Hawks fan as I am. So very cool. And tomorrow, 15th birthday for Addie, which is crazy.
Nice.
Yikes. It's
15.
terrifying.
What a fun time.
Is she like excited to get her license when she's 16, or is she like, okay, because there's some people now, there's some kids that like when they turn 16, 17, they have no interest in getting a license, and that just blows my mind because I counted down the days.
I got mine a little bit late because I was older. I was one of the older guys in my class, so there wasn't like a rush to catch up with my teammates, but yeah, she's excited. So I think I'll like buy a car, like with what? Like, do you have any idea? She also, we are,
take her
we
to
have
a
a membership.
Super chats?
We have like a Delta Sonic. We have like a membership. So you pay like $27 a month. You save like 30 cents a gallon and you get free car washes all month.
Oh, sure.
And Eddie's like, we have the membership, so we just get free gas, right? No, that's not how this works.
Not how that goes.
But I remember the first time I filled my gas tank, for whatever reason, no one ever taught me this. And I was like, I don't know what to do. So I looked in the manual, and it said my 1991 Chevy Cavalier held like 10.2 gallons of gas. So I went into the gas station, go, please charge me for 10.2 gallons of gas. And the guy was like, okay. So I pay him. And of course, like, I don't get 10.2 gallons of gas in my car because it's not completely empty.
Yeah,
and I just pulled away. I didn't know what to do. So I just pulled away from the gas station and left the change behind, which was like probably $8 or something.
Oh, gosh.
I'm an idiot. That's back when gas was cheaper, though. So it wasn't as big of a deal.
Like, that fill was probably $20. Right?
Yeah. Oh, no. It was like $15 you fill your tank for the week.
Yeah.
It was easy.
I had an 89 Toyota Corolla, gray and beautiful, and it filled up for you.
I
for about
acquired a 91 Chevy Cavalier convertible from my late grandmother.
Nice.
But hey, worked out.
First car was I think 2001 PT Cruiser.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
You're the Monopoly guy.
What's the style at the time?
Also inherited hand-me-down car from a couple family members. Yeah, so good old days.
Yes. All right, we're going to be back tomorrow. We got Cam Robinson coming on the show Friday. So don't miss that one. Get your bandanas washed. Get ready for that show.
We're thinking there will be official news tomorrow. Give it 23 hours.
That way.
Emergency pod may be loading.
I would say, I mean, if it happens between now and probably 1 p.m. tomorrow, we'll do an emergency pod.
Yeah, right.
If it's like 1:15, we'll just wait till 2. But it feels like tomorrow's the day. So we shall see. Stay tuned.
We shall see.
Make sure you're following us on all of our socials at CHGO_Blackhawks. When news breaks, we'll be all over it. So follow us. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page. So when we go live, you know. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 2 p.m. on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.